And that's us recording. Welcome. And welcome to people who are watching later as well. We're going to do 15 movements from Shibashi set 2. So we're going to get started. I'll do my mix of seated and standing. All of you, I think, know the rules. Work within a comfortable position. I'll start standing up. Move within a range that suits you. Okay. So here we go. First opening movement. We're bringing the hands up, but we go overhead and then down. If you've got the scope to flex at the hips and maybe even the knees, then do so. But if not, just work with the hand and arm movements. I'll turn to the side just to show you what I mean. So that's hips and knees together, but it might be just a hip flex like that. Again, we've got full permission to move in a way that looks after your balance and suits you. You do you, as they say. One more of these and we segue into our next movement, bringing the palms together. Again, if I turn side on, again, it could be a little flex of the hips and we're rotating the palms forwards, upwards, down and round. Again, just working the shoulders, perhaps more than anything. Okay, moving on. Breeze blows through the willows. Options are to be sat or stood in place or to push. Right leg in this case, my prosthetic a bit further forward and then begin to swing my arms. Again, you have to work in a way that suits you. So that might not suit you, but that's okay. Work from a standing position, but if you can get a leg slightly forward, that's okay too. If you sat down, you can push that right limb forwards a little bit, again, if possible. But we're just swinging hands, arms, very loosely as we go. Just trying to let tension go out of the hands and arms and shoulders. I'm going to step back. If you've pushed that right leg forward or took a step, bring it back. Same with the left leg. So I'm pushing this left leg forwards and the left hand leads the swing. So I'll do this towards the camera. Very steady. You'll notice that I'm not overdoing things. I'm aware of my balance, making sure that I'm not overbalancing or having to work hard too much. Just trying to keep things within a nice, easy range. Okay. Seated, standing, searching for a needle at the bottom of a C. Again, options. If you're sat down, you may wish to push the right leg forward. If you are stood up, you may wish to push that right leg forward. We're taking our hands like so, and they're coming down the thigh, maybe to the knee, and then we pick them clear, and then we go down again. The idea is to try and keep the weight on the rear leg, whichever one it is, the left in this case. But again, this could be a balance challenge. So it might be, just as an option, that you're very square on with your stance and you're just hinging at the hips and you're just emphasizing the right side rather than having a leg forward and you're flexing at the hips. So that's an option. And then we take those hands and we do the left leg in a similar style. Again, don't look for a stretch. Aim to just work within a comfortable range and see if that range begins to extend all by itself without us trying too much. I can take a little pace forward with that left leg, and all of a sudden it makes my balance just a little bit more challenged. I'm sorry my feet are out of view. Okay, make that the last one. Quite a challenging movement. Let's bring some rotation in. I've got my right hand overhead, left hand down below, and I'm rotating to the right, first of all, turning the palms over and then rotating to the left. It's called fisherman casts his net. So we're casting a net from one side and then to the other. So there's a sweep and a turn and a sense of throwing outwards, if you can have that feeling. Again, if you're sat down, you'll need to be mindful of things around you and mindful of the armrests if you have them on your particular seat or chair. Oh, it always seems to do my back good, this one. But I won't keep doing it. We'll do one more, not worrying if we're out of sync or not. We'll come back to the center and relax from there. Okay. I'm going to sit down for the next one. Again, just for people who may be seated, just to demonstrate. But if you're still standing, that's okay. So there's my seat. And we've got the movement that's called spirit, or sometimes fairy, or sometimes immortal, points the way. And it's this big circular movement of the hands and arms. So I'm lifting my hands up. I'm going to take mine to the left. So my fingers and hands are pointing to the left. And then I point and look with my index finger across to the right. I drop the hands and they open and we sweep them round, full circle, back to that right side. And then I point with my index finger and look to the left. And now once again, open the hands, sweep them in a big circle back to that left side before looking and pointing to the right. And we're alternating from one side to the other after these big circles, looking, pointing now to the left. Big circle all the way around back to that left side before looking, pointing to the right. There we go, round, right side, looking, pointing to the left. We'll do one circuit from the left, pointing to the right, and finish there. Because it's a big movement of the whole shoulder girdle. And it can be quite onerous. Next movement. I'll stand up again for this one, but again, it can be done sat down. Mischievous boy kicking his heels or kicking his legs. This is where support comes in handy. I'll just make sure I get back so that you can see my feet. So that could be a walking stick, it could be a frame, it could be a chair, it could be a handy wall. If you've got really good balance on both legs, great. But we're shifting weight to one side and just touching a heel, doesn't matter which one you start with, to the ground. And then stepping back. I'm just going to use the wall for this side, touch the heel to the ground and back. We're trying to straighten the knee and pull the toes back towards us. Obviously, if we have prosthetic feet or prosthetic legs, the toes tend to stick up in any case. So we've already done that bit. I appreciate this is a real balance challenge. So again, support shouldn't be considered cheating. It should be considered a very smart move to ensure that we have our stability. Excellent. Some of you watching, following along, may feel that you can float that heel so that it doesn't touch down on the ground. So now it's suspended in the air and we really are standing on one leg. But again, only if you feel that that's okay for you. Again, support is perfectly okay. It means that we're not wobbling too much and that we can focus on the exercise, which is perhaps more important than anything. We'll do one more, not worrying about which leg it is, and finish there. Mischievous boy. Okay. One of my favorites, Stork pays homage to the moon. I like this one. Looking up slightly, bringing the palms together overhead, and then down come the hands, the elbows stick out, and then we let the hands go. And we could have a big breath in as we do so. And then down we come. Just like that. If you want a balance challenge, all we have to do is bring our feet together. We have a smaller base of support. And again, particularly with lower limb prosthetics, that can be quite a challenge to maintain that balanced position with a narrow base of support as we look up a little bit and bring the hands down. You may notice that you might be wobbling a little bit more and that you might just have to be a bit more mindful as you do this, coming down. Good work. Okay. One more time. Again, a favorite of mine. I do like this one. Okay. Yellow dragon, grasping or clawing. This is where we use this dragon hand, where the hand is in a kind of clasping shape, as if we're reaching out for something. Try to have that intent in mind. If at all possible, we now go for a wider base of support. Again, this might involve a hinge of the hips, leaning forwards, might involve a flex of the knees if that's possible. But we're bringing the hands up. The fingertips brush the fabric of our clothing. Once again, elbows stick out. Roll the hands over. We're into that grasping shape and then flex and reach forward and then let the hands relax down. Once again, straighten up. Roll the hands over and again, if you can flex forward, then do so. But again, that might mean different things for different people. Some people may be able to flex and bend quite significantly. And for others, it might only be a little bit, but that's okay. One more time. Okay. So that works on stabilization, forwards and backwards. Now we're looking at stabilization from side to side with opening the bow. Once again, we're using a wider stance, or if we're seated, we're using a slightly wider stance as well. And we're going to be shifting weight from one side to the other. Again, let's just do that as a bit of an exercise in itself. Just shifting weight. Hands on hips is a good way of guiding that movement, getting weight from one side to another. Again, not necessarily an easy movement for those of us who use lower limb prosthetics. So one to feel your way into. If you sat down, as we've demonstrated before, you're moving weight onto one hip and then the other. Okay, so there's the weight shift that we need to build into this movement. We're picking the hands up. They go overhead a bit, and then we turn the palms out. I'm going to look to my left side, drop the left hand, and now I'm shifting my weight to the right as I open the bow. And then I shift my weight back to the center, let the hands lower, and now I'm picking them up. Overhead, turning the palms. I'm going to look to my right, drop the right hand, and shift my weight to the left. And then slowly come back. Again, it's a challenge. Once again, lifting palms up, turning them outward, shifting to the right as I look to the left. Going very slowly with this one. Really taking my time just to make sure I'm feeling okay. Could be a breath in if you wish, followed by a breath out as we shift our weight and open the bow. That's optional. Or just focus on the movement. Let your breathing take care of itself. One more, each side. Again, it's a worthwhile movement building into your movement skills, shifting weight from one side to the other. So important. Here we go, to the last time. This is my right side, shifting weight to the left and back. Well done. Okay. 2 dragons. Here's our dragons. Got my index fingers pointing, little fingers pointing. So that's the hand shape that we're after. Those are our 2 dragons. Again, a bit of a wider stance. Again, if we're sat down or stood up, we may be able to get that right leg moving forwards a little bit. I'm picking those dragons up overhead. And then if I can, I'm bringing some weight forwards and then pushing my hands back behind me. And then as I bring them up overhead again, I'm shifting my weight back. So there's some weight shift going on. Again, it could be a little, it could be a lot more. Again, it's about what suits you and your particular situation. So again, moving slowly through these more challenging movements, just to be mindful that we're not overstretching, not overbalancing or jeopardizing our balance, trying to find what's often referred to a lot of times in sort of Eastern philosophy, the middle way, the easy way. Okay. So that had an emphasis on the right leg. Again, that could be done with just a neutral stance and just a little bit of a turn. So again, that might suit you. I'm just going to push my left leg forward a bit, lift hands overhead, still with those two dragon type shapes. And again, there's a bit of a weight shift forward and a weight shift back. That's it. Excellent work. Last one as I push. I'm going to come back. Excellent. Okay, rolling waves. And this is very similar to pushing waves in the first Shibashi set. Only this time we're going to alternate from one side to the other rather than stick on one side. Again, seated or standing, a bit of a wider stance. It involves an emphasis on one side and then the other. We're picking our hands up. And let's start on the right side. A turn and then a push. Again, maybe with some weight shift. And then turning. Might have to adjust my feet a bit. And then making a wave on the other side. Doesn't matter which side you started with. There's only two to choose from. But again, it's quite involved. Despite the apparent simplicity, transferring weight from one side and then to the other, moving weight forwards and back is actually pretty challenging. So again, it's a movement skill that comes in handy. It's the kind of thing that we do in the kitchen without thinking, working from one area to another. Okay, I'm going to do one more on each side again. You do the same, not worrying whether we're on the left or the right. And we come back to where we started from. Excellent. Okay. Another movement. Lion playing with a ball. Sometimes it's called lion cubs playing with a ball. I like to visualize the sun in the sky, and we'll start off from a standing or seated position. And we'll start off by actually holding our ball. And for this one, I'm going to be a bit more specific. I'd like you to have your left hand on top if possible. Okay, right hand underneath. That bottom hand tells us what's going on. We're using that bottom hand to shade ourselves. Imagine the sun is high on the right side and I lift that hand up to shade myself. And then I'm pushing my left hand forward so we get some rotation through the shoulders. You can imagine that you are pulling the right elbow back so that you get lots of rotation. And then you drop the right hand, bring it back on top. We now have the left hand underneath. Imagine the sun has moved position, so I shade myself on that left side. Push forward at shoulder height with my right hand and pull back the elbow. And again, we get lots of rotation. We're going to bring the left hand back on top, right hand, and we've done both sides. So once again, the right hand lifts, shades the face, push directly from the shoulder with the left hand, and then bring the hands back. Left hand underneath, remember, because that then lifts to shade. And we push with the right. And back we come. Should have a right hand underneath. If you have the scope, you might want to push the right leg forward. As you shade, you can shift a little bit of weight onto it. And that gives us even more rotation, quite a twist. As we come back, you're going to adjust yourself back to that neutral stance, hold the ball, and then maybe a little adjustment with the left leg. A bit more difficult for me, but I'm going to give it a try. Pushing with my right hand. Pretty involved movement. So we're having to move slowly. We're going to do one more on the right side. So I'm shading with the right hand, pushing with the left hand. That's it. And we'll do one more on the left side. So the left hand is on the bottom. There it is. And pushing directly forward, pulling the left elbow back so we get lots of rotation. And coming back. Oof, challenging movement. And we've got two more movements that again are something of a challenge as well. Again, there's rotation and there's a sense of lift. And I know that's difficult, again, particularly with lower limb prosthetics, because we can't lift onto our toes. But even if we can't, we want to have this sense of lift if we can. Obviously, within the bounds of maintaining balance. So the first movement, again, whether we're seated or standing, is to imagine the moon high in the sky on the right side. And we're going to embrace it and bring it down to earth. And it involves a big opening of the hands and arms. I'm looking up to the right. I embrace the moon. I carry it back to the front, like so. And then I lower it down, keeping that big round shape of the hands and arms all the way down in front. And then relax. And then it moves over to the left. And I do the same thing. Bit of a turn to the left. Embrace the moon, both hands on the top. Turn to the front. And then lower it gently down. So you have this big round shape. Imagine I had a big round moon-shaped sphere that I'm embracing. And then we're back onto the right side. Embracing that moon, carrying it to the front and then lowering it carefully down before turning. And that moon is now on the left side. We're really opening the shoulders. I hope you can feel that. Let's do one more on this right side. Bring it down. And one more on the left side. Just to bring it down. Should feel like you've really worked quite hard in extending yourself as far as you possibly can. So that brings us just past the top of the hour. So that tells us that we need to bring things to a close. First of all, thank you for joining me. Let's bring hands together, linking at the thumbs, and just letting the hands settle on the lower abdomen. Again, whether seated or standing. And then if you wish, you can rest your eyes. You may wish to take a big breath in. And let that breath go. And then just be aware that you're breathing. And just rest for 30 seconds or so. Don't worry about what comes to mind. That's okay. Just treat your thoughts like the weather. They come and go. and we're not hanging on to them. Just paying attention, taking notice, and just settling things back down. And when you're ready, you can part the hands. And that brings us to a close. So thank you for joining me. I hope those movements have been interesting, a little bit challenging, maybe a lot challenging, but you've also induced a certain amount of relaxation as well. I'm going to stop the recording. And let you, excuse me. There we go.